and that is running now. So that way, if either of you would find this helpful afterwards, we can sure get the recording in your hands. So, so at this point, we're right at the top of the hour. So at this point, we'll wait maybe just another minute or two just to see if anyone joins. I guess we won't wait too long. Oh, and just like that, here comes someone else. I have a feeling this is Cindy. It looks like that's one of our logins coming in here. So now, this isn't exactly going to be my best sales pitch, but I'll turn on my webcam so just so I can prove that there's a real person here and no tricks up my sleeves or anything. So, and I heard that chime come in. Cindy, is that you today?
Yes, that's me.
All right, good deal. I do have the record going here too. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have two people that have joined us and they got the record button running. So if we need that later. Eric, I know you and I have talked a little bit about Odyssey. Tim, I don't remember seeing your name in the context of Odyssey yet, but have you had any kind of exposure to Odyssey at this point?
No, sir. No.
Okay, so I am going to just do a very quick whirlwind tour, and we'll go ahead and get started now. Um, and maybe if I could just ask you, Tim, what is there any parts of it that you were hoping to see today?
Probably. I was hoping to see estimating and scheduling.
Okay, sounds good. I am going to get schedule. I'm going to get another browser going for schedule because we have some kind of oddball things happening with Mac Safari at the moment. So I'll have that queued up, which will make it just a little bit easier. So just to set the stage, get that browser hiding there for later here. What we've done with Odyssey, that's our print MIS, and as we started getting the idea for Odyssey. Getting the development going, we knew there was two big targets that we wanted to aim for. One of them is over and over and over and over again. We heard from so many of our customers and printers everywhere that they were just tired of the whole double entry thing, where you get an order online and then you have to take the information from that email that you get and copy and paste it into what we now call the legacy MIS. And so we wanted to eliminate that double entry. That was one of the big targets we were aiming for with Odyssey. The other one is we wanted to put a marketing component into Odyssey too. And I'm going to just touch on that just for a little bit. I won't spend a lot of time here, but I do want to at least show you a little bit about what's coming. This marketing part isn't going to make the very first release of Odyssey, but it's right at the top of our to-do list. And so if you can imagine marketing, that's something that MIS really hasn't done before. MIS has always been concerned about the time during production, starting a print job and all the way to completing a print job. Well, with marketing, once we add a marketing component, now all of a sudden Print MIS can worry about how to get a customer, how to get a prospect and turn them into a customer. So it expands the scope of Print MIS. So it's before production and after production to keep customers coming back as recurring customers. So that's a little bit of the marketing component. So just the whirlwind tour for that is Odyssey is going to recognize events. So in this case, this might be the contact tag has changed, one of the contacts within the system. And Odyssey is then just going to perform those actions. So in this case, we're going to add them to a list so that if something else falls apart in any of this rest of this and they don't complete the actions, at least we've got them on another list to keep the touch points going with them. Then we can do things like send an email and wait a while, send another email, send direct mail. Well, in that case, that's going to be a reminder. We'll just ring this little reminder bell up here that says, "Hey Tim, you need to come in here and send this direct mail. Come back and check it off." And it goes all the way through this list. So very big whirlwind tour. I wanted to at least give you just that touch of that hint of what's coming around the corner with the marketing part. Now, having said that, I'm going to go back to the main reason that you're here, and that's the estimating part. And so a lot of times on these webinars, we'll just go big picture and talk about a lot of the different pieces of Odyssey. But in this case, I'm going to be a little bit more specific and show you the three different ways that orders can come into Odyssey. And so one of those ways It's one that I just talked about. It's the way that we have online orders come in, so we can eliminate that double entry. And I've got that set up here. So on the right side of the screen, this is what a print buyer would see, one of the typical order forms that can be built in a website for marketing ideas for printers. And then on the left side, this is Odyssey. This is where you do your work of managing print production and managing the marketing and managing your contacts. So just to set this up a little bit, I'm going to show you a little bit where these come from. Like in folding options is the one I always go to. That's just a way for your print buyers to answer the questions. And normally in most forms, that means that you're going to go ahead and just build the answers that you want them to give, and they give them, and then that's kind of the end of the story. You put that into your production workflow. Odyssey's a little bit different though, because now we're saying that we're going to actually build the resource so that we know what it can do and can make that show up over here. So I'm going to, oh, I just heard a voice in there. Was that a question coming in? That might have just been some leftover audio.
No, we're good. Sorry.
Okay. All right. We're getting a little bit of a
Dave,
crowd here, and at this point, I think we can keep it all open. Cindy, did you have a
trying to see
question?
if I can catch Dave. Dave,
Yes.
we have Peter. He's trying to get his sound, and it's not. I don't know if there's anything on your end that you're able to. He's help him with, or
It looks at this point, from what I can see in the control panel, that Peter is set up for a phone call. So if he's trying with computer audio, we'd need to, Peter, you'd need to switch the button from phone call to computer audio.
and if I
Otherwise,
probably hang up with him too, I'll hang up with him. So
okay. And I am recording this, so we'll just keep this going. Worst case scenario, Peter will catch up on a private demo for you too, but we'll just keep working through that. Okay, so back to our order forms. As I've mentioned, we have the answers that a print buyer can give, and we're going to go ahead and show you where those answers are coming from. And so that is the resources. So a resource in Odyssey, those are the machines, the materials, the people that are responsible for making print happen. I'm on a sandbox website, so I can kind of find some random things in here sometimes, but I'm going to go ahead and look at this folding resource, a folder. And what we've got here with the folder is just all of the physical characteristics and all of the ingredients that come into play to make up a price. So we're looking at things like the hourly rate, the budgeted hourly rate, or what is the maximum sheet size? How long does it take to get that first fold ready? How about additional folds? All of the different informations that makes that folder unique. Now, that's what the folder is. Now, what can the folder do? We've got half fold, letter fold, Z fold, all of these different kinds of folds. And if we look at that, that's what matches up on the order form. So now, when your print buyer is actually selecting a half fold, it's actually meaningful. It's saying that this task is needed to perform this job. So I hope that makes sense here. I am going to go ahead and go back to Odyssey's main screen. We have just enough people where I'm actually going to, I think, going to mute the crowd here just because it's a little bit of a larger crowd. So hang on just a second. There, so we've got everyone on mute now. If you have questions, go ahead and send them in through the chat panel, and I will keep my eyes open for that chat panel and answer questions as we're able to. Okay, so now we're going to do this for real here. We've done all the setup on what's going to happen. And so now, as I hinted, this is going to be more of a specialized specialized webinar talking about the ordering process. So we're going to show you the 3 different ways to get orders into Odyssey. And I set it up so that you can see on an online order form. This is a self-service form. This is the kind where your customers are sitting at home in their pajamas at 10 o'clock at night and they want to place an order. They can just do that on their own. So I'm going to go ahead and place this order. Just give it a name just so we can see it on the other side. And I'm going to add it to the cart. So this is your typical shopping cart experience now. And before I do that, I'm going to go over here and look at our orders list. So I'm looking at an Odyssey on the left-hand side, but back on the right-hand side, we'll just go ahead and check out now. And now we have our typical shopping cart experience. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the shopping cart. I'm just going to stay real high level. So right now we're just pretending that I am a print buying customer, and I'm going to go ahead and complete the order. And there it is. The order has been placed. And if I come back over here and I refresh our order list, there we go. There's the order. So pretty neat. Still nothing terribly dramatic because most online orders will tell you when there's an order. But here's where it gets interesting, because if we open up that order and start to look at this online job ticket, we can see things are starting to connect even already just at the push of that button. And so that folder task I was talking about earlier, well, there it is. Now we know that there's a folding task that needs to happen. And that's how that we can eliminate that double entry, and immediately at the push of that button on the print buyer side, that immediately turns into an actionable job ticket. So in this case, this is all set up, pretty much ready to go. We can use this opportunity to assign the job ticket tasks to the right people. The other thing that is going to happen is the right person that's in charge of scheduling is going to get notified as well. So anytime Odyssey needs a human touch, it's going to ring this bell. So that might mean that we're going to say, okay, human touch, we need to assign this task to a person. Odyssey will connect those dots as much as it can, but it won't be able to do that every single time. For instance, someone might choose other. Well, what does other mean on one of their choices? That's where person needs to get involved. When there's just a few of us, Tim, you had mentioned that you wanted to see the scheduling. We're going to come up to that in just a second too. That's just one click away. But I'm going to go back over here and show you the other way of getting an order form, getting a print order into the system. And let me go back to our orders here again. And I'm going to go back over here on the same order form. Let me see, where was I at? Whoops, I misfired on my button. Had my meeting control panel in front of me there and I got the wrong click. So here we are back on that same order form. And we'll just leave all the specifications the same. And we're going to call this one a guided order. So here the scenario is that perhaps you have a customer that is not ready to place an order online. There's something else that's a little bit more complex here. I should actually have set this up a little bit better. I'd mentioned we're on the same order form, and that's true in this scenario. But imagine that this is an order form that is for your use and for your team's use. It's going to potentially have things on there that are a little bit beyond what a print buyer would normally see, more complex. You don't want to overwhelm them with information. So pretend that this is an order form that has extra options available that only you and your team get to see. And you're going to use those options to guide that print buyer through the process of ordering a print job. So again, order form that only you can see, still on your website, not available to your customers, but you're going to go ahead and use that order form and fill in all those different pieces of information. We might have more questions and more options, and eventually we get to that point where we're back to the cart. And now, instead of being a print buyer placing the order, it's you guiding the print buyer, and you're saying, well, that's not really my order. I'm actually placing this order on behalf of Reggie. So we're just going to go ahead and grab Reggie's name from your contact list. And just like that, that's another way of getting orders into Odyssey. And it's just at this point, it's just like the other order, except now it's kind of the good identity theft. You're assuming the identity of your customer to help them place that order. And we go back here. I'll refresh our order list here again. And there's our guided order. So for you and your team, kind of the same deal at this point. It's a job ticket and ready to go. So that's how it all comes together. Now, I'm going to show you one other entry point into the system as well, but I'm going to save that one for a little bit later. I'm going to go back to the question, kind of the pre-webinar question that we batted around a little bit with Tim about what does that scheduling look like? Because here is the next part where all these dots start to connect. And I am going to pull up my other browser, and I'll show you why. I don't want to sound so mysterious. I'll get it going in Mac Safari as well. But if we look over here, now I'm opening this up in Chrome. Um, this is the schedule. So now we're looking at a schedule, and this has the different resources that are needed that you're defining to put print into action. And so in this case, we're looking at all of the different people and the different resources. And this is my sandbox website, so this isn't quite real world here right now, but you can start to get the idea. Here are the different tasks that need to happen. And once I want to make sure that I'm looking in the right place here. Yeah, we got our different categories there. And once I've clicked on a task that needs to be assigned, the different categories start to show up. Awesome folding machine. I hope you all have an awesome folding machine here, but we're just making this up. Also kind of starts to speak to how you can customize this, of course. I'm not sure if all of these are going to drop into place, but we'll see if we can get a few of them in here. Yeah, that one said undefined. So again, that's a little bit of the sandbox website showing up. Well, actually, it did show up here. Just grab one more just because. You can see all of these are in that smaller task time frame, 12 minutes or 19 minutes. Well, there's one that's 45 minutes. You can control exactly what that time scale looks like, so you can play around with how that works. So that's what that schedule starts to look like. We're looking at this from someone that's in charge of managing the resources. This could also be an individual schedule where someone in the production line is actually just looking at the machines that they are responsible for, and they can see everything that's on there. This red line, that represents the time of day. And I wish I could do this in real life, actually play with that time. But this one is set up for demo purposes, and you can see a few things that happen here. Oh, I didn't pull it down enough. Let me just go just a little bit further here. Just pretend that time is marching forward. And now you can see that this particular resource, all of a sudden the day is getting going here, and there's not enough time in the day to finish this, at least based on what is predicted or to be needed for these tasks. So that might be a case where this alert bell rings again, and someone is going to be notified. Perhaps someone on your team has to call the customer and say, we just aren't going to get it done today, we're going to get it done tomorrow, and they reschedule it till tomorrow. Or perhaps you, as a manager, are going to call someone, tell someone on your staff, you're just going to need to stay a little bit past 5 because there's work to be done. So very clean visual representation of what's going on in the schedule. I'm going to go back over here. Just like I said, I didn't want to make it seem like I was hiding anything, but on the Mac Safari side, we're just some goofy things happening with the line. So that's part of the joys of coding. We still have a little bit of that to work into, but you can see it here on the Mac Chrome side that this is the target that we're aiming for. Okay, now let me go back into the main screen, and I'm going to kind of go back to what I was talking about earlier about getting items into the system, or print orders into the system here. And a couple of the other things that I'll mention. Well, actually, I'll just go right into it. I'll go into the estimates. So far, we've looked at an online order where a customer just kind of takes care of business on their own. And when you see that, it's easy to think that Odyssey is perhaps all about online ordering. And that's true, it is, but it's not just about online ordering. It's also about what I've come to call legacy orders. So that next example is an example of that, where you're going to use your personal view or your printer's view of the order forms to walk them through that guided tour. Well, here's another way of handling legacy orders, and that is the estimate process. So we have all our resources set up, and again, this is the Sandbox website, so I got a lot of things that are set up. you're going to have this fine-tuned to your resources. So this will kind of bend and twist according to what works best for you. But let's go ahead and look at the estimates. So there's our estimate list, and we're just going to go ahead and start a new estimate. And again, I'm going to stay kind of high level on this. I know that I need the job description. Everything else on here at the moment is kind of optional. A couple of things I can show you. We have our contact list within Odyssey, so we can always just look up who are we looking for in here. You can assign this estimate to the right contact. We can look up the shipping addresses. I'm just going to skip that for now. You can play around with the markups because we all want to make a little extra money on this job. So again, that kind of speaks to Odyssey being a cost-based system. We looked at that with the resources earlier. That's where it all starts to come together. So now we're seeing Odyssey look like this big, huge calculator, which is in this format really what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the component wizard for building an estimate. It's kind of the one that's kind of easiest to follow. So I'm going to go ahead and use that wizard. And when I'm talking components, you all know printer talk components. The easy one to talk about is things like a booklet where the cover is one component and the interior pages are a second component. So we can build those components together and build one job. I'm just going to use a single component job just to keep things nice and tidy and easy here. And we just follow the prompts. What is our finished size? One thing to keep in mind too, remember I'm doing this on a web page, and you can see what our developers have been able to do to put so much responsiveness. Now I'm not talking responsive like mobile websites, but responsive as far as how fast the website can react to input. It's all coming up really just like it's a desktop application. So you kind of even forget it's a website app sometimes. We'll just keep following the prompts again. And again, I was going to make this a simple one component job. And one thing I got to get our guys to change is this button says load presses. It would probably be more accurate to say load output devices, because here's where Odyssey starts to show some of its smarts. Because now it's figuring up all of the different output devices that are available to you, and it's going to rank them for you. So it's always going to put the lowest cost method of producing print up on the top and rank it from lowest to highest cost. And you can see some of that math starting to drift in here. Our labor hours, the labor rate, the material, the dollars, all of that information starting to show up in here. So we'll just go ahead and select that one, and we can do the whole upsell thing and add a second quantity. And even though it's ranking them, you can select whatever one makes sense to you. If you want to override that, you sure can. And again, at some point, it might make sense for it to switch over from offset to digital. It's always going to give you the lowest cost way of producing that job right at the top. And there you go. That is the basics of building an estimate. I'm going to show you the details of that, but now that is kind of really the basics of putting it together. It might be that you need to add some binding or some of your other resources, collating, whatever it happens to be. You can add those in. But now the part I'm most interested is to go back to the estimate here, and we're going to look at some of those pieces of information. So here you can see again, all that math is coming together. Now keep in mind, this is a lot different from the self-serve type of an order that we did earlier. That's on kind of the easy end of the spectrum. Now we're looking at the more complex end of the spectrum. So just remember that Odyssey's got you covered from both ends of that spectrum. We can start to see that estimate taking shape and all of the information that comes into play. And once we get it to this point, we can take a look at that estimate, and perhaps you want to print that out on your letterhead so you can send it out to your customer. You can do that. I think in this case, I think my pop-up blockers got it, but there is a PDF that's behind all of this. And the other thing that you can do, which is right in line with how we do websites for printers right now. You can go ahead and send that estimate right out to your customer, which I won't do. I'm not going to trigger that email, but we could. And then all the things that we still do right now today still come through into Odyssey. So your customer would get that email, and then it's going to go ahead and bring back your customer back to the website where they can approve that estimate, and then go ahead and enters the production flow, just like the job tickets and the schedules that we saw earlier. So there it is. That is the real whirlwind tour of the different ways of getting jobs into Odyssey. Let's see. We've got about 7 or 8 people on the line here, so I am going to keep the microphones mostly closed. Eric, I am going to open up yours, though. I saw that you sent in a question, so I'll go ahead and open that up, and we can have that discussion if you'd like. Eric, your microphone is open.
Well, I just threw out the comment on this particular estimate that you just went through. I saw 2335, but I didn't see where it was breaking that down to the point where your press sheet size is going to be 1420 or smaller on a GTO.
Oh, okay, yeah, and what you're seeing there is just kind of me playing around in a sandbox website that doesn't always present the real world in the way that it should. The concepts are there, so I mean that's going to work. Um, is really what you're asking is just that the size isn't matching up with the real world? Is that kind of what you're saying there?
Right.
Yeah. So what I'll say to that, that's actually be an easy question to kind of gloss over, but it's also one that is probably worth showing. Let's see, hit that again there. Oh, one other thing to get there, I'm going to kind of kill a couple birds with this stone. I could go into the resources in here just like I did with the folder, but the other thing that we can do is this super friendly search in here. So anything that you want to search for, whether it's a customer or an order or an estimate or whatever, just a super easy way to get to anything that you want. So I'm typing in GTO, that brings up our resource for the press. And so we can go ahead and set that. So if you wanted to set that, or if we wanted to set that to 14 to 20, we sure could. I'm going to leave it there because I don't know if our developers were just playing around with some different numbers to try out some scenarios, but that just kind of speaks to the behind the scenes part of it, that we can build these resources.
Can you speak, Dave, to what the difference might look like for this? Appears to be more of a kind of a B2C interface. If you had customers that wanted to have previews of their own forms up on their catalog and so forth, what different steps would be required to do that?
Okay, yeah, and that's a great question. And by the way, for anyone else that has questions, feel free again just to send them over to the chat, and I'll keep my eyes open for that. So how does Odyssey act from a more of a B2B perspective is kind of the question on the table. And let's go ahead and look at the order forms. Let's go ahead and view all. The one that I was playing with here was this flyers test. That's the one that we had up on this side, and we've got our form designer here. And a little cleanup work to do yet as we're sneaking closer to that launch date, so just kind of look around the corners there with me for now. Let's see, where do I want to find that? Is it in product information? So right here, here's one of the hints of it, is who gets to see it. Is it public, or are we making it a private form and we're going to assign it to a customer? Really what that means is, do you want it hanging out there for everyone to use, or do you want to lock it down so that it's available only when someone logs into the system? So that would be the first place where we can start to see that, yeah, Odyssey does great on the B2B side as well. The other part of it is over here, and you have to forgive me, I have not played around with this area much lately to see all the changes. Well, actually, we can kind of see it here too. Folding options, that's kind of been my go-to task. Well, let's say that they've got an item that's been locked down for them as a document library item or private ordering form, and it's always just going to fold this way. Well, what we can do is just limit that out so that instead of saying that they're going to choose, we'll just leave that one fold in there and make that a hidden question. Maybe question isn't quite right way to say it, but make it hidden. That way the task is still there and it's embedded into the order form so that when it comes in as a job ticket, that task still comes along for the ride, but it removes that as an option that your customer has available to them. It's one less choice that they have to make. So that'd be one scenario. Does that kind of does that answer the question? Did I answer a question or did I make more questions?
You made a couple more. In our current system, we've got JPEG preview and then also a production file attached to different forms that we would send in, or a customer would request, so that they're actually looking at their own form.
Right.
And I guess I'm not seeing where that might happen here.
In that case, we would just drag in an image element, and you can just go ahead and plop that image in. That would be the static image. That would be one way of doing it. The other thing is if it's a variable data or a personalized form, that's in our world, in the Marketing Ideas for Printers websites, that's the You Design It add-on, so we would have the elements for that and drag them in as well.
Do you have any kind of integration done, Dave, with UPS or FedEx yet?
We do, yep. And even on our current website, on our existing website, we have the ability to look up weights and rates based on your unique account with FedEx or UPS. And here's the thing, and I got to be kind of careful on how I say that. On our existing website, it's not quite what we want it to be or what we think it should be. And that's not a reflection on UPS or FedEx. It's more a reflection on how do we get to the weights of the product. And we can do that. We've got the calculators to do that. That's on our existing website, and that works. However, now that we have total control of all of the tasks and all of the pieces that make up production, we can get very specific on that weight. And here's the shipping weight here. Now, I think this actually, at this particular moment, is still a kind of a nod to the existing system. Could be wrong in that one. But anyway, where I was going with that is to say that now that this is truly looking at the granular details of print production, we have the ability to calculate that rate, and that connection with UPS and FedEx is only going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. So,
how would you handle freight amalgamation? For example, you're going to shoot off, say, 500 each of business cards, letterhead, envelopes to a customer away, and that's all going to end up going in one box.
Right, and that would all be combined within the order. That's probably a little bit of a deeper question than I'd be able just to pull up right here. But the bottom line answer is all of these pieces, well, not these that are on the screen, but all of that type of information, same type of thing. We have all of the data. We can blend it and combine it and fold and spindle and mutilate it in whatever way makes sense. Now, let me answer that question a little bit of a different way, and here's where I'm going to slip into sales pitch mode just a little bit, so hang in there with me for a little bit here. If we go to our Odyssey page, this is marketingideasforprinters.com/MIS, here's one of the big deal. Here's my sales pitch. For the next 12 people that come in, we opened it up for 15 new customers. 3 of those spots have already been filled, and so we have 12 more spots. So if something like that is important to you, this is the right time to be a part of Odyssey, because we're going to be giving an unfair amount of attention to our early customers, just as we've already done with our founding members and our early adopters. This first group of customers. So Eric, if that's a big deal to you, which it is, I mean, I think that would actually be a kind of a big deal for everyone. But it's things like that that we are really just queuing into and just listening to make sure that Odyssey is the best experience it can be for the very first customers that are with us on that. And so it's kind of my long way of saying it, but we are very serious about that. That's why we're keeping the initial group small, so that we can go ahead and make sure that everyone's needs are being addressed.
How much of the website, the Acme Printing demo site that you have here, when you land on page 1 and you've got all of your product offerings over on the left-hand side, how much of that can be used more or less without having to reinvent the wheel?
Meaning, like, is it ready to go out of the box? Is that kind of what you're asking?
No, I know it's not ready to go out of the box, but I'm supposing that those are actually tied to, maybe estimate forms, and then you're doing your work on the back end in Odyssey to go ahead and create your BHRs and what the equipment is that will generate the pricing. I guess I'm wondering how much of all of this would need to be recreated.
Um, I don't know that I would use the word recreated as much as I would connected. So the first part of it would be, in most cases, it would make sense. I think really in every case, it would make sense that we'd want to get your resources set up. And again, that's your machines, your materials, and the people that you're using to make print happen. Once those are set up, and again, that's going to be fine-tuned to you, then you can decide how those are going to appear on the order form. Now, if we go back, I'll go back to this order form that I was on here. If, for instance, you don't go ahead and create the Odyssey connections in there and someone were to use this order form, what's going to happen is Odyssey is going to treat it like an estimate. So it probably is not going to, well, it won't have the pricing down here, but Odyssey would treat that like an estimate. So from your print buyer's perspective, it's really not going to be a lot different. Again, with the disclaimer here that the price isn't going to be available. It doesn't have the resources to calculate the price. But from your print buyer's perspective, it's really not going to, that the experience really isn't going to be any different. The difference comes on your side. You don't have all those connections made yet. You're not going to have those efficiencies that I was just showing. Odyssey's still going to nudge you in the right direction, and it's even going to throw a few prompts there. It says, you might want to make this connection so this is easier next time. But that's going to be, that's so fine-tuned into your unique workflow that those connections would have to be made first for Odyssey to work.
Do you make the distinction between a login B2B site versus or B2B site as opposed to a B2C site, and how is that accomplished behind the scenes?
From a high level, no, there's no distinction. From Odyssey's perspective, really a customer is a customer is a customer. Is it a B customer or a C customer? Odyssey doesn't care. They're ordering print. So really, some of those designations are really just kind of however you choose to handle them. For instance, what type of order forms are you putting there for them to use? So one of those first designations would come, what I'd hinted at earlier is if you're putting things behind the lock and key of their login, well, that has more of a B2B feel. That's going to be your corporate collateral and things like that. But if it's hanging out there for anyone to use, that's the B2C side of it. Again, to Odyssey, doesn't care. An order is an order is an order, no matter who is sending it. Another designation that you might have is, oops, I went into team. I went into the wrong one. Let me go back here. Contacts. You might designate a contact as whatever designation would make sense, but as a B2B contact or a B2B or a B2C contact, you might designate them as that. And I don't want to stray too far from the question, but that's the type of thing that makes sense when we start looking at the marketing component, because in this example that we've got here, contact tag, if it all of a sudden says, oh, that's a B2C customer, then I'm going to perform these actions and stay in touch with them that way. So that's where the designations start to come in. It can really be however it makes sense to you to do it. You have all of the ingredients there to build the formula, in whatever way makes sense. Any other questions? Eric, great questions. I still have your microphone open, so you've got the floor, and pop the questions out anytime you want, but I'll still keep my eye open for any other questions that are wandering in through the chat panel here.
How many people are currently on the system?
We have, let me go back here. This isn't the whole lineup, but we have all of these people, and that is, boy, this is embarrassing. I don't even remember the exact number, but it's these 4, 8, 11 people, and I think there's 6 or 7 more that aren't on this page. So we have roughly 17 founding members and early adopters, and then 3 more that have taken some of these new customer spots. So pretty good group. You know, it's been a really good group, and actually, you can see some hints of where we're going with that too. That's where we've been
Is
so fortunate to build Odyssey with printers. So it's for printers and by printers.
has Dennis come on board? He was in your Graph Expo video.
Dennis is there. Yep.
Okay.
Let me see if there's some of the other things that I should be talking about here. Get my cheat sheet going. We talked about the eliminating the double entry. We did resources setup. We did the estimates. We did the search anything. This is such a really kind of a simple one, but it's one of my favorite things, just how easy it is just to find anything in the system. The marketing, the cost, I guess the cost, this is something newish. We're starting to put more blog posts out about Odyssey. So if I do my sales pitch job correctly, we haven't really been terribly loud about how much it costs, but at the same time, we're not keeping it a secret either. So there's a blog post that says how much does Odyssey cost, and the startup is just right there, $2,999 to get it started, and then a monthly subscription fee of $499. Now, that's the cost. The other part I want to make sure everyone hears is where's the benefit side. And you can read all of these that you want, but this is kind of my favorite one to talk about. So if we look at some of the payback, how many times are people placing online orders? Well, let's just use an easy number, 12 a day. And if you're saving 5 minutes of double entry time, our early adopters have said that can be anywhere from 3 to 11 minutes per order that they don't have to spend on those orders to do the whole double entry dance again. So if you're doing 5 minutes an order, it's just an easy number to work with, and you're doing that 12 times a day, or more correctly, not doing that 12 times a day, you've just saved an hour per day. And can you or someone on your team use that hour to sell $2,800 more of printing in a month at an 18% profit margin? If so, then you've just paid for your Odyssey subscription, and we haven't even talked about all of the other parts of Odyssey yet. So the cost question is always going to come up. I like to hit that one head on. There's the cost, and there's the flip side, the benefits too.
Dave, can you touch on, and I know this is can get into the weeds quite a little bit, how a variable template would be created? Because one of the big costs here for us would be we've got about 4,000 templates that have been created for our customers, and you know what all might be involved in repurposing those, and what a template actually looks like, say for a simple business card.
Sure, and I won't pull that up in Odyssey, at least on my Sandbox website. I don't have that at my fingertips, but it would be back in that form builder again. Let me see, order forms. So this would be kind of the gathering place for all of those pieces. So if we go back to the order forms, and again, that's where I was talking about the you design it information, the image uploads and the previews. So again, this is one where I want to be a little bit careful on how I say it. The today answer and the tomorrow answer might be two different answers, only getting better, of course. But the today answer involves the use of PageFlex Studio. And regardless if you purchase that software or if you want us to build it for you, it's that PageFlex Studio software that that's kind of bridges the gap for how to turn a desktop, or how do I want to say it, a native file into something that can be used on the website. And so for a typical business card, and for those of you if you're not familiar with PageFlex Studio, from a very big, broad perspective, it's a lot like Adobe InDesign. Kind of has those same type of tools, same feature set, or similar feature set. So if you were to take a typical business card, if you're just getting going and kind of got past that first learning curve, a typical card probably going to take about 30 to 45 minutes to convert that into something that can be used online for variable data or for personalized data. It's a matter of going in there and drawing a box and saying, here's where my here's where my variable data is going to be, and then matching it up to some of the answers. You might have like, what is your name type of questions in here, and just matching it up to those. So pretty straightforward process, but it does take a little bit of time to create each one, 30 to 45 minutes for a typical business card. Got another comment that came in here. Actually, we have one of our early adopters on here, and she's mentioning when someone asked earlier about previews, I think they meant the thumbnail preview that shows at the top of the document library items. So that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up here. So Eric, when you're talking about what we just talked about, are you talking about the variable data, or are you talking about the static images?
Variable data. And I just threw a note at you that I'd like to talk with you in more detail about what PageFlex Studio can do, because we've got some very complicated stacking rules that are in play on some of our current templates.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, and I so far I haven't seen anything that PageFlex can't handle. Some of them can get pretty thick and complex. So yeah, I'll talk to you offline on that one. Just jotting my notes down on that. The other point that Michelle was kind enough to give me the nudge to is, if we think about the static, again, not the variable data or the personalized like we're talking about, but if we think about the static images, that whole saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Get that picture in there too, the image part of it. We want to get that image in there so that your customers can easily see what they're ordering. So just a really easy way to make a good experience for your customers. And that can be done without the variable data, of course. Well, I typically try to keep these webinars at around 45 minutes. I can still keep going too. We still have a number of people that are listening in, which is great. I'm so glad that you all are here. I know time is often our most valuable commodity, so I don't take it for granted that you chose to spend some time with me here today learning about Odyssey. So I really do appreciate that. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I'll turn off the record button. And again, thank you for attending today. And Eric, I know that we've got a few questions that we'll talk through, so I'll go ahead and contact you offline. For anyone else that's on here, if there's questions hanging out there, let us know. mi4p.com/MIS will get you to the Odyssey website. Thanks again. Take care.